What do you think?
I think we're dead meat. Real dead meat.
You dead meat!
Go ahead and laugh, you guys. Find the final little bastards that did this. They're dead meat.
Welcome to the Dead Meat Podcast, your horror safe haven. I'm Chelsea.
I'm James, and we're married, and we like to get scared together.
We're also recording this like earlier in the day than we normally do, and that's when Molly has all of her puppy energy, so she's going a little nuts right now.
Jesus Christ, man.
Hi,
Calm
honey.
down.
Uppies?
All right.
Uppies.
So we're talking about In a Violent Nature.
I'm so excited to finally talk about this.
Yeah.
I love this movie. It's spoilers.
No. Oh, the spoilers are
The
that you love
spoilers
the
that
movie.
I
Okay.
fucking love.
I was like,
this
hold up, we gotta do the
movie.
non-spoiler part first.
No,
Yeah.
no. The spoilers are that I adore this. The more I think about it, the more I love it. We were fortunate enough to see it a second time with a screener provided, which was very nice of them.
Yes.
So because it's hard for us to both find time that we have to be able to go to a theater, but you go see this in a theater. I know it's coming to Shudder.
I don't think it has a date.
It doesn't have a date?
No.
Oh, okay. If this is playing near you, because I know it was it a limited release?
Kind of a limited release.
If
Not
this
every
is-
theater has it.
If this is playing near you, go see it in a theater. And like obviously going to a theater for any movie is great, and probably the way that the filmmakers want you to see their movie, unless it's something like a Host where it takes place on a Zoom call. But this movie is so reliant on sound and the fact that the pacing is slow.
Yeah.
If you've seen it, you know what we're talking about. That is probably the biggest critique people have of this, is the pacing and the general tempo of this movie. And I think if I had watched this for the first time at home, I would have been checking my phone. I would have been getting antsy because it's quiet and slow.
Yes, very much so. But as we will discuss, that is the point. I
Yes.
see a lot of people being like, oh, it was a good movie, had some really cool kills, but everything in between was really slow. And I'm like, that is the entire point of this movie, as we will discuss. And that doesn't mean you have to like it, If it's too slow for you, that's understandable. It is I saw the Wikipedia said that it was compared to what I didn't even think would have a link. Slow cinema is a term, sometimes called contemplative cinema, that just, focuses on long takes, ambient noise. There's no score in this movie.
No.
There's no non-diegetic music. Although
No,
it does have a lot of like
except
diegetic.
There's one part that I was sitting there trying to think, is this non-diegetic? I'm not sure. We'll get to it.
Okay.
Slow, so that's interesting. Is that like, does that include neorealism and
Probably,
stuff?
I don't know if it includes it, but it's definitely related. But like, I don't know, Terrence Malick,
Sure, okay.
Because
Because neorealism's a weird one where that's like, I mean, the Italians were like, hey, what if we film stuff and, instead of cutting out all the things you normally cut out, you show it. Like someone getting ready to go somewhere and...
Yeah, the editing mantra of like, come in late, leave early from the scene. You don't have to see them walk to the door, open it, and exit it. Neorealism's like, no, you have to see it.
You gotta see that.
You gotta watch that happen because that's reality, baby.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to name him Peter Kuplowski. Kuplowski is the producer who hooked us up with the screener through our producer, MK.
Yes.
So huge thanks to them. He's also, he co-produced PG Psycho Gorman and The Void. And there are a few people from Psycho Gorman in here. Smaller roles, but they're in here. The Ranger in A Violent Nature. He was the lead thug in Psycho Gorman.
Okay.
Who had the hilarious death where he was frozen in stasis and then accidentally knocked over and
Yes,
shattered. And he was
okay.
like, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very funny.
So it's Canadian. In a Violent Nature is Canadian and was filmed in actually Sault Ste. Marie, the Canadian version, not the Michigan one. There's two Sault Ste. Maries. But they were going to film it in a different part of Canada. And
This
then they were
movie
like,
is Canadian.
it is Canadian, yeah.
Wow.
I caught some of Boots in there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's get into it.
Well, I just want to talk a little bit more because it is a slasher.
Yes.
Technically.
It's a slasher.
Told from pretty much the point of view of the killer. So, but it does it so literally because, listen, when we're watching a slasher and we're watching it from the sexy teens point of view, we're seeing them get scared, and then, you know, Jason will pop up intermittently, do a really cool kill, and then disappear, and then we're back with the people being scared and like trying to figure out what's going on. But if you think about what Jason's doing in the meantime, he's mostly just walking.
Yeah, that's what his day is it's walking. He walks to all the cool set pieces and then just walks around some more.
And it really gives motivation to why the kills in slashers like Friday the 13th are so creative and violent.
He's
and
got
elaborate.
time to think about it.
He's got time to think about it, and he needs something to punctuate all this boredom. Like, if you have to walk for 90 minutes to get to a kill, when you get there, you want to make it worth it.
Yeah, I do. There's a specific moment in this movie where it clicked for me and I understood exactly what they were doing, and I realized, oh my God, this is the funniest movie I've seen in a long time. Because at first I was like, oh no, because I'm not a huge slasher fan in general, and I was like, oh shit, it's just kind of a slasher, huh? Oh
Yes.
man, I'm gonna be bored. But then I realized, wait a minute, no, I'm bored on purpose. Like, this movie's clearly made by people who love slashers.
Yeah.
But also understand how fucking boring they are.
And, you know, we bring it up so fucking much on the podcast. I bring it up so much on the podcast. But it's kind of like how Schmigadoon is made by people who love musicals, but also recognize the dumb parts about them.
Yeah.
And can, like, lovingly poke fun at them.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on here with the slashers. This is made by people who understand stuff like the Prowler and the Mutilator are slow-paced and sometimes will bore you to tears.
Where you are watching them just to get to the kill
You're
parts.
just waiting for the kills.
Yeah.
And this one's like, yeah, we'll give you those kills.
But we're going to make you wait for them.
Yeah, you're going to have to live with the killer and see what they have to go through to get to those moments. And this movie was released unrated.
Yeah.
It, just like Terrifier 2 was, is unrated in theaters. That's why it's not a super wide release, but it makes the most of that unratedness. There's a kill in here that is currently in the lead for best kill of the year.
Oh
for
my gosh.
sure. And if it wasn't for Terrifier 3 coming out later this year, I'd say it has it in the bag. Only Damien Leone could possibly one up this. But I don't even know if he can, because this thing is amazing. So basically, if you're thinking about this movie and you're not sure what you're going to get into, it is slow-paced, boring, and extremely graphic. But if you can appreciate what they're doing, it's also hilarious.
Yeah, I was laughing my ass off.
Our theater was laughing. We were seated right next to, we were actually seated in between a giant group of
I don't know
youths.
what happened with the AMC seating arrangements here, but
My assumption is that one group bought their tickets, and then we did, and then that group was like, hey, other youth friends, do you want to come see this movie? And they did, and they bought the tickets on the other side of us. But we were in a youth sandwich, and I'm saying youth because, honestly, dude, I was sitting there listening to their conversation. And they were saying, yo, dude, you still vaping? Ah, no, man, I'm trying not to vape. Yeah, that's good, dude. Vaping's bad. You gonna catch the Jake Paul fight this weekend?
Yeah.
No shit. They were talking about vaping and Jake Paul. I thought that it would be too on the nose for them to have these conversations, but they were real people having these conversations. Mm-hmm. They were very talkative before the movie and during the trailers.
Yeah. So we were a little worried, but then they were great during the movie and also laughing their asses off during all the.
One guy was laughing his ass off. The people around him were like, dude, what is the matter with you? You're fucking sick. And then the guy right next to me did not appreciate the pacing and was on Instagram during the movie, which I guess is a thing that happens nowadays, but it didn't ruin my enjoyment of the movie.
Yeah.
I had did I have a hamburger? I had it was at the dine-in. Mm-hmm. So I was having a good time.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
Sure.
I think one thing I love about this, I briefly mentioned, is the sound.
Yes.
The sound in this, especially watching it a second time, especially having headphones on, and at certain points I had it cranked way up so I could hear everything. The sound in this is it's so good. I haven't seen anything like this in a while, where the sound is so deliberate, and once you really pay attention to it, especially on a second watch, it's incredible.
Yeah, the Foley artists were working overtime in this movie.
Yeah.
Because so many shots are just tracking shots. It looks like a third-person video game where it's just following Johnny, the killer, and it's just like crunch, 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 these heavy footsteps through the woods.
Yeah, people have compared it to like ASMR videos of a guy walking through the woods.
Yeah.
Which it
just
basically is. It
nature
is. After we left the movie, I said that this was an acoustic cover of a Friday the 13th movie.
Yes.
Is the general kind of atmosphere going on here. But
It's
only
a hiking simulator.
Yeah, not only just the sounds themselves and the way it sounds and all the mixing, and that's all amazing, but the way that sound drives the plot. I noticed it so much more this time through. That sound is crucial to every single kill in this movie. It's crucial to how characters find each other. It is so cool how sound and like the way that sound reaches Johnny, our killer, that's what pulls him through the whole movie. And it's so interesting. I really noticed it this time.
Oh yeah, he's constantly like, he'll hear a noise and then start walking towards it. And then if he'll hear something else, he'll turn and start walking towards it.
Sound is what dooms every single one of these people. And it's so cool. I was keeping track of what essentially leads to everyone's demise, and it has something to do with sound every single time. Yeah.
Because there's like the horn, there's the shotgun blast. Yeah, wow.
We'll go through each one, but as I noticed this pattern, I was getting so excited. And again, watching this a second time, I was like, this is a very like proficiently done movie. It is not what I typically get frustrated with, where a slasher will start to just feel like we came up with all these cool ideas for kills and we have to string them together somehow.
So now they're going to play hide and seek in the house for 5 minutes.
But this is very like thoughtfully choreographed and pieced together, and it is not, as you would maybe think, just kind of a random assortment of kills strung together by, oh, he's just walking around towards them. Like, that is what it, especially first viewing, it felt like. But paying attention a second time, there is a rhyme and a reason to everything. And there is this kind of, like, oral through line. And it's super, super cool. It's just really thoughtfully done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I super dig this movie. I'm surprised at how much I love it, but I think because it is like, I want to say meta. It's not meta's
It's a deconstruction.
Yeah,
kind of.
meta. It feels insulting to call
No,
this
because
meta.
meta is like turning towards the camera and being like, "See what we're doing here?"
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
not what this is.
yeah.
And like we keep saying, it's hilarious. It's not a comedy.
This is not an out and out comedy.
No,
but if you understand what it's doing, like, I mean, if your job, like ours is to watch slashers all day, basically, to have this experience where you're watching a movie made by someone who clearly understands those movies the same way you do, for all their faults, there was something like very joyful in that. That I just all of a sudden, when it clicked, I couldn't stop laughing.
the other thing that I really noticed the second time through, I kind of clocked it the first time through, but the fact that there's this whole other movie happening that we don't see amongst the teens or the youths or whatever, the survivors. And it's so funny. It's very similar to the Friday the 13th reboot in the character relationships and everything.
Yes, dude, for sure, because you've even got like a Jared Padalecki character.
Exactly.
Who's like
brooding.
There's
and
something
kind of an
about
outsider.
like his dad died,
Yeah.
and Jared Padalecki's character, his sister's missing, and there's that
the jealous boyfriend.
Yes, yeah.
And so there's this whole thing, and every time Johnny gets close to them, you like drop in on a different
You hear
plot
a little
point.
bit of what's going on in the world of these kids.
There's even a scene where they take a selfie together by a campfire, and we see that Johnny's in the background. And so we're like, oh, they're going to see. But we don't see when they discover that moment. It's just later on you don't even see them talking about it, but you hear them. Johnny hears them where they're like, but what about that guy who was in the back of the photo? I don't think that was a guy. It was just like something on the camera. It's like they had this
them
moment of
arguing
discovery
about,
off screen.
There's a guy back there.
Whereas in any normal slasher, that would be a plot point that we would witness because we'd be following those characters. But instead, we're following Johnny.
And not only is it like an homage to a slasher or a Friday type movie, this feels like specifically an homage to a slasher sequel.
Yes.
Because when you start really paying attention to what's going on here, this is not the first time Johnny has been resurrected, because we get this kind of slow rollout of something happened 10 years ago where he was resurrected and he killed a bunch of rangers, and that's kind of just like dropped here and there. Like you have to they spell it out by the time you meet the ranger who was the final boy basically of the last movie that doesn't exist. But it's dropped the first time when the kids are around the campfire. They're like, hey, you want to hear another story about how these rangers all got murdered here 10 years ago? And
like, no,
they quickly were like, no. So it's a thing where you could forget that they even said that because it feels like such a throwaway. Then when Johnny's at the ranger station, he picks up a framed picture of all these rangers. And
like
it's
2014.
It says Ranger Danger 2014 and he sets
like,
it
those
down.
are the characters from the last one.
It's so great. It's like these nods to movies that don't exist. And I love that so much. It really feels like they're building this Jason type lore for this character. It is like, it's like watching Jason in like the 4th or 5th movie. I love it. Apparently Chris Nash has said that Friday 5 is which I don't know if I totally see, but I mean, anyone who loves Friday 5, I'm gonna get along with.
Yeah, Chris Nash, the
maybe just
director.
in terms of like lore and
maybe because as far as the story goes, especially the one we don't see, it's the Friday remake. A lot of it, feels familiar from that.
And like what's the one with Crispin Glover?
That's Friday 4,
that's
final chapter.
Yeah, maybe some of that.
I think that because that even has the character whose his sister was in the second one, and he's hunting Jason, and that feels similar to this.
For sure. For sure. I could see the guy we meet first, the number one motherfucker. That guy belongs in Friday 5.
That guy belongs in the remake, I feel. He's like the guy with the mannequins, you know?
Oh, okay.
The guy who was like getting all sexy with the mannequins.
That, sure. Interesting. I would love...
But he could also be a Friday 5
I would love to talk to Chris Nash and ask him about his inspirations specifically.
And Johnny is such a Jason character. I mean, besides the name.
He's got some mommy stuff going on.
He's, they call him Slow. Which is funny because he literally
I texted James rewatching this yesterday when the kids are on the campfire and the one's like, okay, telling the story of Johnny, that he's struggling to think of how to describe him politely. And he's like, he was a slow kid. And it's such a funny play on words because he literally, that's what he is. He's a slow walking guy.
Yeah.
And like just even that little joke, I was like, James, this is so good.
Yeah, we do see Johnny's face clearly once.
Yeah.
And he's looking pretty Jason-y.
So I went into this movie trying not to know anything. I did not watch any trailers. I didn't read anything about it. All I knew was that it was a movie from the killer's POV. And I think I had seen like the poster, which is just...
And you thought it was like a first person type
Here's
thing?
what I thought it was going to be. I thought,
like
because I had also seen
shit?
the costume, because when we went to the Grove, his costume, do you remember, is there.
Oh, okay.
Display. So it's the fire helmet, and I didn't know what the fuck that was because it is like an old school firefighting helmet. And so it's got these like weird, not goggles, I don't know, these like circular eyes. And so I was like, okay, I don't know what that is. Are those like cameras? What? Because it's the killer's POV. So my mental picture of this was very different from what it ended up being. I thought it was going to be from the killer's POV, like quite literally, yes. Like, what was that movie?
Hardcore Henry.
And I thought it was going to be a grounded, I was imagining the scene from Zodiac, the picnic by the lake, which is one of the scariest movie scenes, period. I thought it was going to be like all very grounded like that. And it was going to be a killer filming himself. So I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe I'll make that a movie. 'Cause that's a cool idea. But
it's much less fun than this.
But so when he pops out of the ground in this and sits up and I see the back of his head and I see his plaid shirt, and I'm just like, that's fucking Jason.
Yeah.
What is that? Like, all of a
It's like
sudden,
part 2 Jason.
I realized, like, oh, this is a different thing than what I thought this was going to be.
Yeah, because the first shot of the movie is of this, like, pipe, and it really sets the tone. It is just a long shot. You hear 3 of the kids talking.
Yeah.
And you never see them, but they're talking about, oh, that's like a necklace hanging from that pipe.
Yeah, they're
Does this have
talking
to do
about
with the white pine slaughter?
Yeah, they mentioned the white pine slaughter, so we get little hints of that. And then Troy, who is our final girl's douchey boyfriend, grabs that necklace, and that necklace was hanging off of a pipe in the ground, which after the kids leave, that pipe starts moving. And I couldn't tell. I rewound it a couple times, but the pipe kind of looks sharpened at the end when he knocks it out of the ground and it falls over. I couldn't tell if that was like almost like a stake kind of stuck in him. Because why else is there? I was like, is that for him to like breathe? That's what I thought when I first thought that this movie was like just an actual guy. I was like,
is he just like hiding down there?
This guy's hiding down there,
waiting for someone to piss him off, and
yeah.
But no, he was dead. He was in this protected ground of a burned down fire.
It's an old fire tower that I think has like collapsed and is.
That's where he originally died.
Yes, and that's apparently the only ground that can hold him. So when he gets out, he shakes off. He was chained up. He shakes off his chains.
Yeah, the chains just like Friday 7, Jason.
Yep, and now he's walking. He's walking. He wants to know who took his necklace, because that's the one thing he wants. It's his mommy's necklace, kind of like Jason's mommy's sweater, similar function. And he starts walking, and
what are those pink ribbons he sees around the trees? Are they like markers of a previous slaughter?
I think I'm not sure
like
if it's
previous victims
or if it's like property line.
Because
what happens is as he's walking, when he gets close to these kind of pink ribbons, and there's also I think like trail cams. There's like bear traps, and the green boxes I think are trail cams, and so he sees these, and then he hears, it's so cool how this happens every single time. He hears someone yelling at someone else. And we find out that it's the park ranger yelling at this dude who lives right outside of the woods. And he's like, hey, you can't just put bear traps in the woods like this. You know,
there's college kids.
There's college kids here. And he also says, one day something's going to get through those traps and you wouldn't want to meet that animal, he specifically says.
Oh, I took that as it was something like, one day something's going to be in those traps and you're not going to like it. Something like that. And maybe it is meant to be both ways, because I took it as one day like an innocent person's going to step in those traps and like you're going to feel really bad about it. But it could also be Johnny.
He basically says, I remember the quote. He says, "You wouldn't want to meet that animal."
Oh, okay. And yet Johnny is, especially in the final monologue, compared to an animal.
Yes, which I thought that was a nice tie-in to the monologue later, which a lot of people have feelings about whether it is relevant to the movie or not. But I think right away, this like pretty much first line of dialogue almost is comparing Johnny to this wild animal and an animal who's going to be angered by bear traps. And the ranger knows that Johnny's out there, that this is our final boy ranger who shows up later. The guy he's yelling at is named Chuck.
I love that when the ranger's driving away, Chuck throws his can in the back of his truck and he's like, take the trash out with you.
Yeah. And what I love too is how choreographed the soundscape is in this movie in terms of what characters can and can't hear. Like, they know that this movie's very quiet, and they know that you're gonna know as an audience, this person would hear this because you're so tuned in to what everything sounds like. So
especially with no score whatsoever.
There's nothing to distract you. There's no edits to distract you. So as Johnny walks up to the house, you've got the ranger driving away, and you've got Chuck mumbling to himself. He's talking, he's bitching about this rain. He's bitching about how he was, he kept getting yelled at because he was just trying to take a shit. Can a guy take a shit in peace? And so he wouldn't be able to hear Johnny walk up because, one, he's talking to himself, and two, once he gets in the house, the radio is on. So that also muffles any sound Johnny would be making. And once Johnny gets in the house, Chuck is back outside as well. So there's this kind of like, unbeknownst to Chuck, this weird kind of almost cat and mouse thing going on.
Yeah, Johnny sees a necklace and we get a little flashback in a mirror.
This reminded me of like the Friday the 13th game.
Many people have said this feels like Friday the 13th, the game, the movie.
Yeah.
Where you're playing as Jason and you're just walking around. And there are other things. I think I would, again, love to talk to the filmmaker about this, Chris Nash, because later on, they literally, the final girl and the other guy end up with a bear trap and a can of gas. And in the Friday the 13th game, I'm pretty sure you need to trap Jason in a bear trap to remove his mask with a machete if you're trying to kill him. And another common way to escape in that game and pretty much all those asymmetrical multiplayer games is you need a tank of gas to like power something to get away. You always need a can of gas.
Killer Clowns, you need a can of gas.
So it's funny to me that they're running around with those specific objects.
That is funny. Yeah. Something I like too about this scene is the radio fleshes out the world, which is nice. You've got something about the mayor considering utilizing this emergency act to provide relief to laid off steel mill workers, which reminded me of one. You've got the lumber company that is now defunct in this that plays a big role, and the kind of company cover up of that, and the company providing money to all of the widows and also using company funds and stuff to cover up anything that might have happened here. But also it reminded me a little bit of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this kind of background of rural decay and the
collapse of industry.
Yes, the diminishment of like a rural workforce, especially in industries like steel, wood, Texas Chainsaws, butchery. I just thought that was kind of a neat little nod. And because in Texas Chainsaw, you get a lot of that through the radio as well in the car when they're driving to the house.
There's also a little moment that works as some humor because someone on the radio, they might be talking about weather or something.
Yeah, they're like, good news campers.
Yeah, good news for campers this weekend.
They also, there's a little bit of sports talk, and one of the teams that's mentioned, one of our characters, the guy with the headphones who he's wearing is it Milford? It's I forget but yes, he's wearing one of the sports teams on his shirt. It's cool how there's so much background information about this world that if you pay enough attention, it's all there. And I think that's really, really neat. Again, that's why I think this movie is more than maybe what people see it as at first, where this is not a lazy movie. Yeah. Like, there is so much thought put into everything that happens.
So he sees this necklace and it gives him a little flashback of his dad giving him his mother's necklace and saying, she'll always be with you through this. You'll always be our little boy, Johnny. And so he had loving parents.
Yeah.
You know, that's nice. I mean, so did Jason, I guess. We don't really know anything about his dad.
Yeah.
His mom loved him.
Mom loved him a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he sees a necklace hanging up in this guy's house and he thinks, oh, this must be it. And he goes to reach out for it.
But then he hears a gunshot. The guy thinks the ranger's in his house and he's really ready to shoot this ranger.
And this is another instance. Not only did the yelling of the ranger draw Johnny over, but if this guy had just been quiet and let Johnny grab his necklace, that's it, you know? But this distraction of a gunshot, this sound that makes Johnny turn around, it's all over for this fucking guy.
Yeah, this guy sees Johnny. He's like, what the fuck? He starts running from him. He's tripping, as you do. And Johnny's just slowly walking after him.
One of my favorite shots in this is we cut to outside the house and you got Chuck running towards the woods and they're both kind of zigzagging through like a trail to the woods, and it's this wonderful kind of 70s-ish slow zoom out of Johnny just walking after this guy and Chuck screaming and he's looking back and he's yelling and it's all one take, and again there's no music or anything. It's very, very funny. I remember our theater kind of laughing a little bit. I think people were starting to feel like, what is the tone of this thing?
Then, as you probably expected, Chuck winds up in one of his own traps.
Yeah.
And that's what gets him stuck as Johnny approaches him and he just keeps screaming, I didn't do anything to you. Stop.
Yeah. And we see his face for the first, not Johnny's, we see Chuck's face for the first time, and he's got a hat on that says #1 motherfucker. And then
it's a great shot It's a close-up on Johnny's hand as he's reaching out towards Chuck, and then it match cuts to Johnny's hand back in the house, completely covered in blood now, as he's reaching for that pendant, that necklace that he wanted to get in the first place.
He grabs that necklace, and it's not the necklace. It also says number one motherfucker.
That guy had a hat.
That guy
and a
had a necklace made on like Etsy that says number one motherfucker.
Then who are we to dispute him?
I mean, he might just be number one motherfucker.
Yeah, I think anyone who just has the hat is probably in actuality number two motherfucker.
Yeah.
If they don't have the necklace as well.
Yeah. I'm just like, he got awarded it. Like at the end of Star Wars.
Yeah, Leia fucking puts the number one
motherfucker.
Chewbacca's just proud of him.
Maybe that's why Johnny's actually mad, is he's like the Chewbacca and he did not get a number two motherfucker necklace. Hey, want to talk to you about our sponsor this week, Rocket Money. If I asked you how many subscriptions you have, would you be able to list all of them and how much you're paying? Apparently, over 74% of people have subscriptions they've completely forgotten about. I include myself in this number. I am very, very bad about this. If you're like me before using Rocket Money, you have no idea how much money you're wasting on services you don't even realize you've subscribed to, and our sponsor this week is here to help you with that. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. I can see all of my subscriptions in one place, and if I see something I don't want, I can cancel it with a tap. I never have to get on the phone with customer service. Rocket Money will even try to get you a refund for the last couple months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/deadmeat. That's rocketmoney.com/deadmeat, rocketmoney.com/deadmeat. Then, okay, Johnny realizes that's not mine. He walks back through the woods.
We pass
Chuck. His eyes are gouged out. His arm is also ripped off.
And then Johnny's walking.
We hear those teens roll up. We hear their music, and they're hooting and hollering.
Yeah, they're just driving by on a nearby road, and Johnny just watches them. Just tracks the sound of their car as it drives by, and is like, guess I'll go there.
Then he's going to keep walking, and I love the sound in this walking scene specifically because we get the transition of day nature to night nature.
Yes,
and that's really
very
smooth and nice. You start to hear this gradual introduction of different bugs and sounds, and it's really, really nice. And then
no more birds.
He hears a firework. It's this loud, like, pop sound, and that's what lures him.
No, I think they're guns.
Really?
Because the kids have guns. And
I thought it was like
fireworks. He hears them being like, okay, you've proved that your dicks are big.
Oh,
so I think they were like,
okay. I couldn't tell because it's dark. This movie's also
it's dark, and we don't see the kids most of the time.
Yeah.
We're watching Johnny.
So yeah, he hears again. I don't know if he was specifically headed towards. I'm sure he was looking for the kids, but the gun sound is what really it makes him notice, okay, they're right over here.
So he finds them seated around a campfire, and then the movie does slightly shift focus to just do a bunch of circling takes around the campfire as these kids tell stories.
Friday Part 2.
Yep.
Campfire scene.
Steve Holt.
Yes, Steve Holt. And the kids have music playing, which is great because it makes sense, and also it keeps them from hearing Johnny.
I really like the soundtrack here. It feels very like 90s rock.
Yeah,
I don't know when this takes place. I'm assuming it's modern. Yeah.
Because the Ranger Danger's 2014.
But these kids are into their 90s rock. It feels very like they've got some Gen X sensibilities for sure. And yeah, I've seen the acting criticized, but I think it's a very deliberate acting style.
I think it's on purpose.
Like, these people, sometimes they sound like video game NPCs with their line delivery.
Which, like, that's what they are to Johnny.
Exactly.
They're video game NPCs.
Like, especially the doc, when he's, like, watching from across the lake, that dialogue sounds so just like, choose a conversation option in a video game and you get a certain response. But here they're telling the story about Johnny, and so Johnny's
the
backstory.
White Pine slaughter, and we get a bunch of backstory.
Yes, Johnny was a simple youth.
He was they call him they awkwardly call him mentally hindered, and then they're like, no, that's that's not right.
Well, they're
but
prodding the guy to say
the R word.
Sure, yeah, and because one of them is about to record him, saying it to cancel him.
That's coming back in vogue. I don't like that.
Apparently, well, I mean, I think saying, isn't it like a medical term?
I think it, yes.
You know?
Yeah, and it also as a word like retardant.
Yes.
You know, to like stop or slow something. Yeah. That's but like using it as just like it's dumb. Like something's dumb. Yeah. That's, come on. Like we had like PSAs telling us that wasn't nice.
It's all Y2K is back, baby. In all its forms.
Great.
Yeah.
So we got our backstory. 70 years ago, this area that they're currently camping in, this whole forested area, was leased out by a logging company, and shops would come in and set up in the area to sell stuff to loggers.
No, there was just the one store.
No, it's multiple stores, but they were all owned by Johnny's dad.
No, it's one store owned by the company, and Johnny's dad works there. I'm pretty sure.
No, I rewound this so many times to make sure I got this right.
Really?
Yes.
Because I thought the whole thing was like, because the logging company owns the stores, that's why they charge so much for the stuff that they have.
So here's what I wrote down.
Okay.
Shops would set up in the area because it's so remote. There's like nothing around here to sell stuff to the loggers. So like razors and like just essentials. And all of these shops are run by Johnny's dad. He like owns all these stores, so he's able to jack up the prices of everything at these little stores.
Interesting, because I thought that the logging company owned the stores and that Johnny's dad merely worked there, which makes him a more sympathetic person. He just works there, as opposed to, if what you're saying is right, then he is the one owning these stores and exploiting the costs.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, because I thought I had it right, but you might be right.
Yeah, I mean, we can't go back and check.
Can't check now.
So either way, the loggers get pissed and they take out their anger at this kind of monopolization of all of the stuff being sold to them on Johnny. So Johnny's always also playing with these toy cars. And one day a drunk logger trips and breaks his ankle on one of these cars. And so then some of these loggers want to teach Johnny a lesson, and they tell him, hey, we found a bag of toys up at this old fire tower. And they get him to climb up there, and obviously there's no toys, but they have a guy there who's wearing an old firefighter's mask who jumps out and scares him. But Johnny falls and he snaps his neck. And they freak out, obviously, because that's not what was supposed to happen. They panic. They put the firefighter mask on him to just make it look like he was out there playing by himself and that he fell. Johnny's dad finds the body. He confronts these loggers in the mess hall. A giant fight breaks out. Johnny's dad gets killed. The guy who kills him claims self-defense. The company covers it up, makes sure there's no charges or anything. Then later... And this is where my timeline starts getting a little confused.
We said a week later.
No, his dad is killed a week after Johnny is killed.
Oh.
Then, I'm not sure how much later, the executives of this company show up to the camp and everyone's dead.
All the lumberjacks.
Every single lumberjack is dead. They're all torn to pieces. And so the companies... Then they pay off all the widows, they just close shop, and what they say is all the lumberjacks died from eating bad meat, and that the bodies were ripped up because animals got in there and just they ate the bodies.
Yeah.
And that's that.
So
this is where because if Johnny died 70 years ago, this is where I start getting confused with what the ranger
he died as a
says
kid,
later.
and if these deaths happened shortly after... But it was maybe Johnny. It's just like Friday the 13th. You have Kid Jason, who died as a kid, and you see him as a kid at the end of Friday 1. Maybe it's real, maybe it's just a dream. But then Friday 2, which takes place the next day, he's a grown-ass man walking around with a bag on his head.
Yeah. So how does that work? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there is logic to it or if it's just like intentionally ambiguous.
Yeah.
That's when they take the selfie. the group selfie, and you see Johnny in the background. And he goes into the shed and gets he's just like arming up.
I love that. Yeah,
weapons.
he finds this old shed. There's a few times where Johnny's able to just walk into a building and there's weapons on the wall, which I think is so funny. It really is video game-esque, where you walk into it and like, oh, here's this variety of weapons.
And as he's walking by windows and stuff, we're hearing little snippets of conversation. Our final girl, Chris, is arguing with her boyfriend Troy over having invited is it Cole, yeah, along on the trip. And so it's a very, like we said, Friday the 13th remake.
She's also, it seems like there's some tension because she wants to get married.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's the conversation around the
there's
campfire.
Kind of this nod to her being, that feels very hyper virginal to me because they seem so young. It's almost just really like hammering in, this is our final girl. She's a good girl who wants to get married.
Yeah, there's even like the shot through the window of her undressing, but it's just down to her bra. It's not, there's no nudity in the movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Jason goes around back. There's another girl, I didn't catch her name, but she's smoking weed.
I call her Stoner Girl.
Stoner Girl.
She's wearing
Stoner lesbian.
At first, I thought it was the necklace. She's wearing
yeah.
a very similar looking kind of gold necklace.
Did you catch? Because so later she's gonna try to seduce Yoga Girl at the. Did you catch in the very first scene when the guys are at the talking about the pipe? One of them is saying, "Oh man, we gotta get back before blank gets takes all the girls." Like before she claims all the girls for herself.
Oh, that's funny.
So they already know that this chick is like gonna be hitting on all the girls.
Yeah.
But right now she's just getting high, talking to Aaron the storyteller.
Yes.
Who's trying to either go take a shit or go hit up some girls saw at the gas station.
I think he's trying to go take a shit.
I think he's trying to go take a shit.
Yeah.
But they're teasing him.
This is the second time someone just trying to take a shit leads to their demise.
So he leaves.
Yeah, so headphones guy / storyteller guy leaves to presumably go poop in the woods. And what I love is that Johnny's kind of skulking around the outside of this house. His attention is drawn towards our final girl in the window because her light flips on and she's looking out the window. And I could hear the guys next to us in the theater complaining that why can't she see him? But you can't see out of a window at night if your lights are on and it's dark out. Yeah. So Johnny's just kind of staring at her until he hears a lighter flip on. Oh. And that's what makes him notice that headphones guy is back there.
Yeah. And so he finds headphones guy and uses, I forget what he has from that shed.
A machete.
Oh, is it?
I think it's a machete, yeah.
It's some kind of, and he sticks it through the guy's mouth.
Like wrong turn style.
Yes. It's a half decap.
Yeah.
Like wrong turn.
Yeah, which I like because he's the storyteller. So, of course, his death thematically is appropriate. Yes, his mouth gets sliced.
Great effect here because as his lower half falls, the prosthetic or animatronic upper half has the eyes flittering back and forth. So a lot of movement there. It's excellent. And it takes him a while to get through it.
Yeah.
So like it's not just
we
a
watched
quick
the
little
whole
thing.
It's gross. This is the music that I'm not really sure if it's supposed to be diegetic or not because there's music coming through the headphones. I don't even know if they're still connected to the cassette player at this point. The music also starts to kind of warp and slow down.
My interpretation of that was, I mean, this is a cassette player, and I don't know if this is how they work, but we see Johnny start dragging the body. He's got the half head in one hand, and the other hand is like through the guy's like gaping hole into his neck, and he's dragging that body, and he goes all the way back to the ranger station, and it's when it cuts to the ranger station that the music is like slowed down. So my assumption is maybe that the batteries are starting to go.
I thought maybe the battery was starting to go too.
So he gets to the ranger station and he looks inside. There's a funny little shot of a sign saying, if you require emergency assistance, call this number. He uses the half a head to break the window and break into the ranger station where we're getting more of these like...
There's this shot here... I don't know how many times they did this.
The head lands upright.
The head lands upright and in a beam of light.
Yes.
I was losing my fucking mind. Like, how did they get that to land like that? It
Yeah.
looks so good.
This is where we see the Ranger Danger 2014 picture, and then there's a display
Wall
of
of weapons.
the history of firefighting in the area. It's got the old mask, it's got an old hewing axe, and it's got these hooks.
Dude, I was dying because this is what part of what I think is so funny about this movie is all these like potential weapons on the wall. And because it is essentially a museum display, there's little placards that are essentially describing how you can use each of these things to kill someone.
And they're behind a glass case.
Yeah.
And he just fucking whips
He takes
his body
that body
into the
and
glass
just
case.
uses it
It's
to
so
break.
funny.
Like, again, it's hilarious. Maybe you don't think it's funny. If you're a fucked up little gremlin like me, this is the funniest shit. I just think just this limp body.
Yeah.
He could use anything else to break this case, like a chair or something, but using the body is so funny to me.
So now he's got his mask. He puts it on.
Yep.
You see him put it on through a long
It's
shot
the
through
hockey
the window.
mask moment.
Uh-huh.
Yes. This
And
is
he's
it.
got his signature weapons now, a hewing axe and these chains.
Yes.
Which, great. I don't think I've seen this as
the chains with the hooks at the end.
Yeah, a hook on either end. They're dragging chains, I guess, for loggers.
Yeah,
to, like, drag.
It's a very
trees.
like Soul Calibur kind of weapon. I think. I also really like on and off. There's kind of this intermittent noise of the motion sensor lights turning
Yeah.
on and off, which is just a nice kind of touch to this soundscape, and it changes the lighting of each scene. It's cool. So now he's walking back through the woods, and it's daytime.
It's
It
the next day.
takes him a long ass time,
and
and
he goes to a lake
he
and
hears
he hears the girls.
He hears that again. It makes him turn. He hears the girls giggling. It's so cool every single time something draws his attention. It's the sound.
Just like in those video games.
Yeah.
You know, that's where you get the little circles that you start
Mm-hmm.
to follow, and that's why you're turning on radios to distract.
Yeah. So these women are laughing. The one girls are stoner girls in the water swimming, and this was a ploy on her end to get this other girl. She wants to hook up with her.
Yeah.
And the girl on the dock, we'll call her Yoga Girl because
Mm-hmm.
she wants to go do yoga, and she's like, if you want me, just say so.
Yeah, if you wanna make a
don't
move,
play
make a
these
move.
games. And she says, I'm still gonna go to the lookout to stretch myself out a little bit, which in retrospect is very, very funny because that
Yeah.
is what happens.
And this is the NPC dialogue where she's like, you blew your chance this time,
Yep.
but come meet me later and don't tire yourself out too much.
Yep. And again, this is Yoga Girl also dooms herself here by outwardly saying where she's going to be so Johnny can hear where she's
I
going
feel
to
like,
be.
Catherine could have played Yoga Girl.
100%.
For sure, yeah.
100%.
Definitely like in her wheelhouse.
For sure.
But Johnny, he's on the other side of the lake.
Yeah.
He's seeing them from afar. And this made me laugh in the theater. So he has his chains and his axe. He sticks his axe in the tree trunk and then just starts walking into the lake.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's just walking across the bottom of this lake
That's
to get
what
all
it
the way over
seems
there.
like.
It seems like
Yeah.
I can't imagine him swimming. But this whole fucking time, this is a big lake that we got to see him cover, and it takes him a long time to get over there. And this whole time, I'm like, he's gonna have to come back for that axe at some point, and
Yep.
we're gonna fucking
Yep.
watch it,
Yep.
aren't we?
Yep.
And for sure, that's eventually what happens. But in the meantime, it's this long shot, and she's swimming, and the other girl is left, and then you see her go underwater.
Yes.
And I don't know.
She starts to scream too, and her scream gets
She's like,
cut
"Ah!"
off.
Yeah.
And that kind of little echo into nothing is
It's
really great.
I don't know if they had some kind of oxygen tank underwater.
Dude,
She's
I have
under there for
no
so
idea.
long.
The fact that this is all one take is really impressive. I don't know how they did it. I'm sure they either, I don't know, or she just knows how to swim and can do, I don't know. But she surfaces once more,
Yep.
and her scream gets cut off again. There's
then
the
her-
nice sound of like there's bubbles and the
Bubbles.
dock kind of rocking from the motion under the water. And then we pan and Johnny emerges from the
Well,
lake.
her dead body
Or
floats
her
up,
dead body
yeah.
float, but then Johnny emerges walking out of the lake like a fucking 50s sci-fi monster.
I mean, it's
so
like
creepy.
Jason at the end of Freddy vs. Jason when he walks
so
out of the
great.
lake. Yeah.
Then he heads over to where he now knows Yoga Girl is going to be. And sure
Mm-hmm.
enough, she's there doing yoga. She hears him, but she just assumes that it's Swimming Girl.
Yeah.
And is like, I knew you'd show up, and turns around. Oh God, it's this guy in this fucking scary mask. I think the firefighter mask is really creepy.
Do you think there would be anyone who we could hire. You know how like you can hire a male stripper and they'll come dressed as a firefighter?
Yeah.
What if we do that, but they're dressed as this kind of firefighter?
Oh, that's fun.
Who do you think would be into that? Now that In a Violent Nature exists.
What do you mean, who do I think would be into that?
Who could we hire that for? Who would enjoy it with like Johnny style?
Joe Lynch.
Joe Lynch?
Yeah.
I was thinking possibly Chrissy Fox.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Maybe Whitney Moore.
Yeah.
And especially, and this one we should actually do, Mono and Betsy
Yes.
would love a Johnny firefighter style
Yes,
stripper.
they would.
Male stripper
That's a
in
great
like
idea.
terrifying old style firefighter outfit.
That's a very good idea. So he approaches Yoga Girl, and guys, this is it. Like, this is the kill. If you haven't seen this and you want to, don't spoil this for yourself, because it is truly one of the most batshit crazy things I've seen in a minute. I was like cackling like a witch in the movie theater. It's incredible.
So she's backed up to a ravine, which she could just hop down. It's not the steepest thing, but instead she turns around. Or no. While she's looking away, he slams the hook in the top of her head.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I'm sorry.
No. Okay, so what he does, she is looking away from him.
Yes.
Because oh gosh, she's like, I'm on the edge of this cliff, essentially. And what he does is he punches the hook through her back out to her stomach.
Yes.
And then she kind of freezes. She's in shock, and she turns around.
And so she's just standing there facing him with this hook out of her back, right?
Yeah. He pulls the hook the rest of the way through, puts it onto her like he
hooks it into
her head, then turns her back around, pulls the chain back through
her stomach out her back.
Imagine trying to tuck your own head through your belly button.
Yes.
That's what's happening here.
And that is what happened.
And
her like vertebrae starts popping.
Yeah, you see her
head.
neck and the back start to split open. It is the craziest shit I've seen.
He threads her head through her stomach.
Yeah, and her head pops out through her back.
The ultimate yoga pose.
God, it's incredible. Like, it is truly, and this and the
and he's got like his foot on her back.
Yeah, he's using his foot as leverage, and this kill and what happens after it is when this movie finally clicked for me. That's when I understood what it was doing, because this kill is so insane and over the top. It is not grounded. It's like the sleeping bag kill. It's like a later Friday movie kill where we're just getting sillier and sillier. And it's the fact that it is like thematically appropriate for this girl doing yoga. And then after, first he kicks the body down the hill.
And it only makes it like halfway down the ravine and then slides to a stop.
Which made me laugh very hard. Because you're expecting it to go all the way. It doesn't. Then he's walking, and he's walking for a while because, yes, as you mentioned, he has to walk all. Because remember, he originally went through the lake, but this time he's got to go all the way back around to get his axe.
And when it shows him getting the axe, I was like, I fucking knew it.
Yeah, and this like very long, boring walking scene after that kill is when I was like, oh my God, I get it.
Yep.
And this is so funny because this is what a slasher's life would be if it's not edited and you are just, if the movie was Jason the whole time, this is what his life is. It's fucking boring. He's just walking around, and every once in a while it's like the craziest hyper violence you've ever seen in your life. Then it's back to just kind of walking around. It's so funny. Then he hears the rest of the college kids back at this cabin. They're all arguing about what to do.
Yeah, this is after they've noticed him in the background of the selfie.
Yeah, so they know, and they're like, our friends are missing.
Yeah, our friends. And of course, Troy, asshole boyfriend's like, the
fine.
girls are probably just off fucking. Aaron probably went to those gas station
anywhere.
girls.
And he even makes a point of throwing the car keys in the woods.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you want to leave? Well, go get the keys.
Yeah.
And Johnny finds the keys, and they have a little toy car on the keychain.
Yeah, and so he loves toy cars. So Johnny, he sits down by a tree,
and he takes off his mask.
Takes off it, and that's when we see his face the first time. and he's playing with he's like rolling the toy car back and forth. Like, guys,
Chelsea
I was
looked at me in
losing-
the theater.
I just looked at James with the heart eyes. Like, Johnny is so sweet, and he just, this poor baby. Like, everyone in life was so mean to him, and he just wants his mommy's necklace back, and he wants to play with his little toy cars.
Yeah.
And he is content sitting there with his toy car.
And he dropped his axe to play with his car, and then you see he's like sitting behind a tree, and you see Cole come up and find the axe, and then go back to Troy and be like, You're telling me there's nothing going on? Look at that. And I'm just like, we would see all this in another movie. We would see that happen.
And then what I noticed this time is Johnny's content to sit there and play with that car until Troy specifically says, I'm sorry Cole's dead dad fucked him up, but he doesn't get to kill my whole weekend too. And hearing about the dead dad, that's what snaps Johnny out of it. And it makes him crush the car, and he's back to just berserker mode again.
Yeah.
Final Girl and Cole leave to go to the ranger station. Meanwhile, Johnny uses his axe and sticks it in the front seat of the car.
I think he grabs like a tree branch or something.
Oh, it's a tree, yeah. And he makes the car horn go off, which again, he's using sound as a weapon here to draw Troy out, and he lures him back outside.
Troy comes out, Johnny just makes a big loop around the house because he saw where they put his axe.
Yeah.
So we follow him, walk all the way around the back of the cabin, come back around the front, get his axe, and by then Troy's at the honking car, and he's like, what the fuck
is this shit? Yeah.
And Johnny comes and hacks him in the leg.
Yep. The other guy who's in the house.
Evan?
Yeah, this guy, there's nothing distinct about it. I literally in my notes call him other guy.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have any like specific signifiers, but he uses a gun he doesn't shoot, he like shoots off to the side, and the noise distracts him from, which again, this character, something that makes noise. Johnny didn't know this guy existed until this guy made a noise with this gun, and now he's fucked.
Well, he shoots Johnny, and Johnny goes down.
He does then shoot Johnny, yes.
And then there's the shot of Johnny laying in the foreground while Evan tends to Troy, and he's bandaging up his leg.
Yeah,
and
Johnny's
like,
not breathing until then he all of a sudden starts breathing and gets up.
They're like, okay, we got him, we're good, let's get out of here. And they get up and walk out of frame. It's not until they're gone that Johnny's like, okay, I'm back.
Yep.
And he gets up, and we only see Johnny as he throws the axe off screen.
I love this shot. It's an overhead shot.
Yeah.
Johnny throws the axe off screen. We pan with Johnny in this overhead as he walks past the other guy.
Yeah, Evan.
His axe. He's already dead, and he's on the ground. It's a great off-screen kill. I think it works. And
then Troy, whose leg is fucked up,
he's
like
crawling, yelling for help.
And Johnny just slowly walks up to him, but he drops his chains and his axe. He doesn't need those because there's a large rock nearby that he picks up, stands over Troy, and again, all without cutting, he fucking splats that head, man. That head bursts.
The effects in this are outrageous.
It's so
because
good.
This doesn't cut. It is this one long take. I don't understand how they did this.
Yeah, I really want to find out the specifics.
I want to learn. I want to watch behind the scenes of this so bad because the fact that this was one take and this guy was moving and it's clearly him. I don't know how they did it.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool.
I'm not entirely sure.
He looks through Troy's pockets for the locket because he figured out
when he was
they flash back to the campfire, and he's like, okay, this guy's gotta have my locket,
but his pockets
not
are
in
empty.
there. Then he hears the sound of a four-wheeler behind
Final
him.
Girl and Cole are back. Final Girl's name is Chris. So Chris and Cole are back. They found Aaron dead, so now they know it's the moment where it's finally
confirmed something is going on.
People are being killed. And she's wearing
Johnny notices the necklace. There's some nice sound here of the kind of rack focus to this necklace, and you hear the tinkling of the chain.
Yeah.
All of Johnny's senses are really heightened, which is kind of nice.
Especially his hearing, which is great.
Yes.
They barely get away from him, and they head to the ranger station, and Johnny slowly walks after them, and by the time he catches up, it's dark.
Yeah, by the time he catches up, it is dark, and the ranger is in mid-exposition, where he's explaining the events of all the previous non-existent non-existent Johnny movies to these two kids, and he's like, he's awake now. You woke him up.
Bullets
God damn
will
it.
slow him down.
Yeah, bullets only slow him down. You have the necklace. That's the only thing holding his soul at rest. I'm dying because it is the most cheesy horror movie exposition that is so funny to see shot in this very grounded style.
From so far away,
From really
too.
far away.
Because we're with Johnny as he's approaching, walking out of the woods, and we just see them over by the ranger station.
And then they notice him and he's here.
Yep.
And then the ranger walks over. He like steps out in front of the kids. He's like, you remember me? I remember you. I remember what you did 10 years ago. Put you in the ground before and I'll do it again.
So he shoots him and knocks him down again.
Yep.
But as he's going to like try to chain him up, he's asking Cole for help, and Cole like can't do it.
It's so funny because you can't see any of this either. Like the frame is once again Johnny's laying in the foreground, and we see everyone's legs. And the ranger's like, okay, Cole, on the count of 3, I'm going to give you this gun, okay? Stop shaking. Like, okay, I'm going to give you... It's funny because you can't see, but you can imagine exactly. He goes 1, 2, 3, and Johnny, you know, you're waiting for it. Johnny grabs that gun while it's in mid-pass, and... the ranger tells the kids to run, and Johnny's fighting with the ranger.
He gets the ranger down and then just paralyzes him. He just breaks his back as Cole and Troy run away.
Real quick, this ranger is the survivor of the Ranger Danger kind of massacre that happened. And he says the story that the kids have been told about Johnny's mostly true. He says his father was a lone survivor of, and this is where I get confused. I'm not sure what he was a lone survivor of, because
who knows how many times Johnny's
That's
come
the
back,
thing is, like, he couldn't have been the survivor of the original Lumberjack massacre because that would have been too long ago. But he says growing up, he never believed his father, and until what happened 10 years ago. And he says, you know, I put Johnny down once before. It was 10 years ago. He killed everyone I cared about.
Yeah. So he paralyzes the ranger. So now we just stick with the ranger's face as like his eyes are moving, but he can't talk.
He can't move.
He can
he can't scream or anything. Yeah.
So Johnny is free to take his time. And what he does with that time is he goes into a shed and he turns on a
lumberjack
very loud
equipment
log splitting machine.
Yep.
The kind where there's a chute and you would put a log there and then an axe would slowly go in and split the log.
Yep.
He drags, with the chains, the ranger's paralyzed body into that shack and then gives him a little demonstration of the log splitting machine with the log.
Yeah, I like that. He's such a showman. He's showing him, like, this is what's going to happen to you.
Then he puts the ranger's arm in way of the axe. Split the little
and the guy,
axe.
he can't scream.
Yeah,
so
he's
it
just
is
laying there.
Slow...
So you just watch the axe slowly move down the chute, start to make contact with the wrist, and then break.
And this is all one take.
This is all one take. And it splits the guy's arm off. And then what's so funny to me, and I forget who I was talking to, but they saw this and they were like, yeah, I really thought it'd be cool and he would like take the guy apart limb from limb. And I'm like, I think that was his original plan, but it takes so fucking long.
I bet he realized after the first arm comes off, he's like, I gotta catch those kids.
Yeah. So instead of moving on to another limb, he just puts the guy's neck there.
Yeah.
And it, like, again, I bet his original idea was, I'm gonna hack off one arm, then the other, then the leg. And it was like, oh, this thing is fucking moving slow. All right, just neck first here. And again, this is one of those shots where I'm like, I'm not entirely sure.
It's movie magic.
There is a moment where Johnny crosses in front of the camera where they probably did some magic.
Yeah.
They might have also had a prosthetic dummy of the ranger's body and head and then had him lay in the same position and mask just his face, because you see his eyes moving still as this axe slowly comes down, makes contact with his neck, and then cuts through it finally, eventually decapitating him. And
it's so, I
so
want to know how they do this, because the fact that all these kills happen, except for the yoga one, are like in one take, how... It's cool. It is movie magic.
And again, the sound is just dominating this whole scene. It's just the chugging of this machine.
Yeah. This is where my screener crapped out.
Oh, really? So you didn't get to see...
I don't have notes for the rest of this, unfortunately.
Well, this is Johnny goes back into the woods, and as he's walking, you see Cole and Chris run behind him because they're like doing their plan to get rid of him. Because earlier they're like, all right, fine, I
Is
have
this
a plan.
when they're kind of stage whispering their plan?
So, yeah, because they step, and Johnny doesn't notice them when they first cross behind him, but then they step on something, make a noise, and he turns around. And they're hiding. You don't see them. We're just looking behind Johnny, but you hear them be like, oh my God, I think he sees us. Shit, I think he sees us. No, okay, quiet
here's
down.
the plan.
Here's what we're going to do. And it's so funny because I don't know if Johnny's sense of hearing is heightened. I mean, that's one of the aspects of the game.
I think it is. Yeah, like
you
Jason,
can, like,
that's kind
activate
of
Jason's senses to like hear more things better.
And you just realize, like, if that's the case, yeah, that is what Jason experiences every movie, where these dumbass kids are whispering, okay, I'll do this and you do, and Jason just hears all of it like, okay. I guess that's what they're gonna do.
Oh yeah, because they're luring him out, by the way, by screaming, Johnny, come and get us. What are you waiting for? Like classic slasher thing. He comes up behind Johnny to distract him so Chris can get away. And he's like, come on, you ugly son of a bitch. Very Tommy Jarvis style. But instead of Tommy Jarvis's heroic act of defiance in which he comes out on top, Johnny just slams his axe into this guy's face. And it's fucking nasty. His head just falls apart. And then Johnny just hacks and hacks.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times he hacks that axe into his head.
Yeah.
It's probably an upwards
And
of like 20 or 30.
Chris just is standing there watching.
And she's got a bear trap and a can of gas. And that was going to be part of their plan to like kill Johnny. But while he's doing this, she just sets that stuff down quietly, takes off that necklace, puts it around the gas thing, and decides to leave.
Yep.
She's maybe going in circles because, like, it seems like she's getting lost. It's dark out. She's running through the woods.
Yeah, now we're following her, which is a total shift.
And it seems like she almost keeps coming back to the sound of the hacking. And I don't know if that's in her imagination or if she's getting turned around and keeps coming across it. But eventually she finds a road, makes her way out, and flags down a truck. Very deliberately, probably a truck, just like Sally escaped in the end of Texas Chainsaw.
It's a red truck as well. It just feels like it's intentional.
So the driver of the truck is a woman who is actually a Friday veteran. She was in Friday the 13th Part 2. She played Vicky, one of, I think, the most sympathetic and lovable characters in the entire franchise. She's the one who is horny for Mark, the guy in the wheelchair.
Yes, yeah.
She's just a real cutie, and I'm glad that she gets to be in this movie as like the grizzled old woman who like finds our final girl and is like, oh my God, are you okay? Here, let's get you to some safety. Puts her in the truck and starts driving with her. And this is the part in most slashers where the movie would end. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Anything where they like they get out, they're good. But we don't end here. We stay in the truck with them as the woman is trying to talk to Chris and be like, hey, you gotta stay with me.
You gotta stay awake. You gotta,
and so to try to keep her awake, she starts telling her about a story about her brother who was a ranger in the woods, these woods. And this whole fucking thing about how there was this bear who would like kill animals but not eat them. It would just kill them. And, you know, it's very analogous to Johnny and her brother, you know, tried to track down the bear, but the bear got the jump on him. Maybe the bear was Johnny since
That's
it was
kind
these
of what
woods.
I'm thinking is, I think they kind of hint at that, especially with how they talk about the company covered it up and they were like, we'll just say it was animals that came in and ate the bodies. And then earlier the ranger talks about, you know, you don't want to meet the animal that comes out of these.
Yeah.
So I get the sense that there is some attempt to keep what's going on in these woods a secret. So she might not even know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, she tells this whole fucking monologue, and a lot of people have mixed feelings about this. They think that this shouldn't have been included, but I think it's hilarious that we stick with the survivor after the movie would have ended. And what's funny is that, like, she's telling this story this whole time while she's driving down the road. Eventually, Chris stops responding, and the lady notices, oh, she's bleeding a lot from her ankle. So she pulls over and gets out and goes over and is, like, trying to stop the bleeding. And Chris, like, comes to and is like, no, we have to keep moving. We can't stop. And Chris is staring into the woods, just waiting for Johnny to appear. And we, the audience, are also like, Johnny's going to hop out, like, jump out and kill her. Even though, logically, that makes no
because
fucking
they're
sense.
so far away.
They have been driving for so long during this monologue. They have put so much distance from when we last saw Johnny in the woods, and we have seen him he's not a fast guy.
No, he's a slow kid.
He's a slow kid. He's fucking walking
Yeah.
real slow. So it makes no sense for him to appear anywhere. And yet we are still, as an audience.
I also was preparing myself for her to be in on it. Again,
Maybe,
Texas Chainsaw.
Texas Chainsaw style. Or like she's like, I was Johnny's mom or some shit like that.
Yes,
but
yeah.
we are on edge. And Chris especially is on edge. She is traumatized by this experience. She is staring into the woods, waiting for something to happen that never does. That he never appears.
Yeah.
But I like that it put us in the survivor's shoes for like 15 more minutes.
Yeah.
Just to show what life would be like after
it's
surviving
never a
slasher.
happy ending.
Yeah,
You're
it's-
just always and Friday does that in part 2, kind
Yep,
of the
where you
beginning
see
of part 2.
Alice,
It's
talking about her trauma.
Yeah, there's no escaping it, really.
Yeah, it's who will survive and what will be left of them.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, you could have ended it when she got... But I love how we're seeing... Like, no, this is what that car ride would be like.
Yeah.
It's just like this conversation, someone trying to keep her awake, and then you just see how Chris is permanently traumatized by this experience.
And just the idea of, like, not knowing what to make of Johnny and just thinking, like, you know, some people just fucking snap and they're animals and they just kill. But, like, all Johnny wants is his necklace back.
Yep, and so after we get a few more shots of just nature, reminding us where we've been this whole time, and then a shot of the bear trap and gas canister, but the necklace is gone. So Johnny must have taken it, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then really a fun song about black flies plays over the credits that got stuck in my head all day yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, Johnny's one of the more sympathetic kind of slasher guys.
Yeah.
I just want to I wish I could have like a show or a cartoon about like Chelsea's Home for Wayward Slashers, where I foster all these sweet boys and I teach them how to be good boys.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
We should pitch that to our reps.
You know, like Johnny, he just wants some toy cars to play with and not be made fun of by dirty lumberjacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah, I adore it. I think it's really cool and different. And
hopefully our discussion of it, maybe if you didn't, I don't want to say if you didn't get it, but if you didn't get it or, you know, you didn't see the appeal, maybe you can see more of the appeal now after discussing it.
Yeah, and if you didn't like it, totally
that's fine too.
fine.
But yeah, if you go into it expecting like, oh, a fucking balls to the wall, bloody slasher, like you're probably going to be disappointed. So maybe just recalibrate, see if you like what they're doing here. You don't have to, but I think it's, you can't deny that it's very thoughtful, very intentional, and that they made a great version of what they were going for.
Yeah, absolutely.
So great stuff there. Is this post VidCon this episode?
Oh, I'm not sure because we're recording this. Early.
Actually, this is coming out the first day of VidCon. So if you're watching this, this weekend,
we're at VidCon. Come see us.
27, 28, 29. We are at VidCon Anaheim. Dead Meat booth on the floor, booth 209. We're right there. We're next to NASA.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we're on the same level as NASA.
Yeah.
We're just as important as NASA. Come see us. And we may not be at the booth like Chelsea and I, but we will stop by there on occasion. Otherwise, you can get a photo on the reconstructed kill count set, do a fun little personality quiz, and get a collectible card that Chelsea designed. That's very cool. And get some merch if you want. Meet Dead Meat staff. Our employees are going to be staffing the booth. They're all very cool people. And yeah, we will be walking around. So come find us. And I think by the time this airs, there will be a special screening that you can get tickets for if you come by the booth.
Yeah.
I won't say what it is. We may have already said it by now. We're filming this weeks in advance.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. So if you can be there, you don't want to miss this.
Don't want to miss it. Yeah.
Come to the booth. Have we determined what people will do to get a ticket?
I think
Any cool
all I'll
ideas?
say is if anyone at the booth, working the booth, asks if anyone's celebrating a birthday, you can lie and say it's your birthday.
Okay. Or yeah, just say like, hey, I heard there's some kind of birthday celebration going on. If you say that to one of our staff, you will get a ticket to a secret screening that'll happen on the 28th. It'll be Friday the 28th in Anaheim. So if you are able to be there, ask about a special birthday celebration, and you will be heartily rewarded.
Oh, yes.
Trust me.
Yep.
It's real good. So fun stuff this year. We're doing lots of fun stuff here at Dead Meat, including the continuation of this wonderful podcast. Thank you, Gressel.
Yeah, thank you,
time
Gressel.
During your afternoon.
Cool. Well, until next time,
Mm-hmm.
I'm Chelsea.
I'm James.
And that's Gressel once again. Thank you. And this has been the Dead Meat Podcast.